Yo, yo,
Hi. Yo, yo.
yo, 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 yo.
Power's back on.
Power's back on. The juice is loose.
How long was it?
When was this storm? Tuesday?
2 days?
Yeah, Tuesday. And like the power went out at like 11 in the morning. And then it just came on Thursday at like 1 something.
Wow.
It's kind of wild.
So no AC.
No AC. No, I actually, the water was fine and my stove is gas, so it's not electric. So I was still able to cook and like take a shower and
Take
do that
cold
kind of
showers.
stuff. Well, actually, my heater is a gas heater as well, so it was hot water too. But
Oh, but wouldn't you want to cool off because it's hot outside?
oh, absolutely, yeah,
Cool off with a cold shower.
absolutely. Although I feel like every time I get into the shower, I just get like comfortable and nice in the water, and then I'm like, I crank the heat up because it feels good. But obviously, as usually when I do that, I would step out into my like apartment and it would be cool because of the AC.
Yeah.
So I made that mistake. I took a shower and then I was like, oh yeah, there's no air circulating right now. I can just have the windows open. And yesterday was pretty hot, so it was kind of like, yeah, it was a little bit tough, but it was
glad
fine.
it worked out.
Yeah, I surprisingly had a lot of this stuff that I needed, like candles, and I have like my camping stuff, lamps and that kind of thing. So I wasn't completely out of my element. Um,
I
but it
would love
was,
to go like to a cabin upstate or something where there is no electricity. I don't even know if those exist, but that would be
they
pretty
definitely
fun.
do.
We have all the they do.
Yeah, they do.
Where you
I mean,
have
that's
all
what.
the
I mean, what's wild was like this past weekend, I also went camping. So like, um, most campsites or campgrounds, they have just like a picnic table and like a little fire pit, and it's like a little cleared space where you can put like your tents. A lot of people will bring like RVs or campers, and like it's always kind of when you see people who are tent camping near RV campers, you're just kind of like, oh, this sucks because they're just going to run a generator basically to like have electricity for their camper or their RV. And in my mind, it's like, oh, it kind of defeats the purpose of being like camping.
yeah.
Because you're like, out in the woods, but you've got your like griddle going and your big screen TV or whatever, and it's just not like camping.
Yeah.
And the annoying thing is you're just running a generator just like kind of all night, which sucks.
Both seem very uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
Like have to sleep outside. Don't want to do that. And have to, I mean, that's all you like, you don't have to like catch fish and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, no, I mean,
but like you don't have to forage for berries or
no.
That, and then also sleeping in an RV with like other people.
Right.
Yeah,
I
if you
think,
were to go with your family or something like that, being crammed in one of those.
well, some of those campgrounds, they do have like cabins. They're very like basic cabins. I've never stayed in one of them, but like I imagine they maybe have like a little sink, a basic sink. Maybe they have like a cot or something where you could lay down, and like a bathroom. That's my guess. But really, it's really just supposed to be meant to be like you have a structured shelter to protect you from the elements, but that's it. Like there's no electricity, there's not all of that stuff. You just kind of have to bring into it. If you're going to cook, you're probably going to cook in the campfire outside, so it is possible, but it's also, yeah, if you're like the prospect of sleeping in a tent doesn't excite you, but sleeping in a cabin, which is just like a harder surfaced tent, also doesn't. I don't know. I get why some people don't like to go camping because you're there have been few times I've gone camping by myself a couple of times, which is different than like going even with one other person,
Yeah.
because there's that element of like, oh, I could be disappeared and no one would know. It's just like
Yeah. Without a trace.
without a trace, exactly.
Taken.
Taken or tooken.
You'd be kidnapped.
And
What if some they just take like a random person?
yeah, it's
It's
just
like,
like,
what do you do?
oh.
I'm gonna hold you for ransom. It's like, oh well, who are you gonna
that,
call? Like, I don't.
that happened to me. So I went camping by myself on in the Delaware Water Gap, which is like on the border of New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and it's this like wooded area right along the river. And I had like a little campsite that was not too far from the river. And I got there, like I drove like later in the afternoon, so I got there kind of like around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So the people who were near me, like camping near me at the next site, were already there. And I saw them because I was pulling up to my spot, and I looked, and it's 2 trucks, 2 like big trucks, Pennsylvania license plates, and they're behind their trucks in like full camo gear with like their bow and arrows and their like camo hats and their orange things, like they're clearly ready to go out hunting.
Mhm.
And then I pull up in my car blasting rap music, right next to them with my New Jersey plates, black, and just kind of being like, what am I getting myself into? They all just kind of stare at me as I pull up, and I'm just like, oh, fuck.
Mhm.
And it's clear because I get out by myself. There's no one else with me. So they're just kind of like, all right, dinner's here. Dinner served.
Was it okay? Did they just
Yeah, they were. I
go
mean,
about there?
I really didn't see them after that point. They were pretty much out and about. Um, that was also the time where I went hiking, and I mistimed like how late in the day it was. Like I started hiking at like 4, and then by the time I was like maybe 60% done with the hike, it started to get dark,
Mhm.
and I didn't realize that like that's not good.
Yeah. How
Um,
are you gonna find your way back?
how am I going to find my way back? My headlamp that I had, the batteries were dying, so I didn't have really any light, and I'm going down a mountain trying to figure out how to like take my steps forward in basically darkness, because usually you have like the moon, but if you're in like a mountain with a lot of trees above you, you can't really see the moon through it, so it was just dark. Yeah, it scared the bejesus out of me, but it was fun.
Yet,
I
yet you
survived, and I'm like,
continue to go back. You've been chasing that feeling ever since.
well, you know that movie
Sometimes they find you walking alone at 2 a.m. just looking to be lost.
yeah, that's the legend of Meseret.
That's right.
Generations past
Have I
will be
seen what
like,
movie?
I was gonna say, have you seen the
Oh,
movie
sorry.
Flatliners?
No. Go on with what you were saying.
Oh no, I was just gonna make a dumb legendary lore about how my spirit wanders the mountain at night,
Uh-huh.
trying to. I feel like I would guide campers back to their campsite if they were
That's your
lost.
unfinished business.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Is
be
just
like,
yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't be like dragging them to my lair. I would just more be like, go this way, light the path or something.
I think I'd like to be assisting in a campfire story.
Ooh, like
Somebody's
as a scare, or as a like
as a scare. Yeah, not as like a I don't know, a
well,
poet. I come over and I'm
in
technically it's
this,
a ghost story because I'm telling it. It's not scary, but
so
I'm a
you're the
ghost telling it.
ghost,
Yeah,
and you're just, so it's just you are just telling a story. You're not necessarily telling a ghost story, because all stories you tell are ghost stories.
exactly. Yeah.
Interesting, because in my mind, I'm like, someone, a human, is telling the story, and then for punctuation, you appear as the ghost to
That's what
scare,
I
the
yeah.
8-year-olds who are sitting around this campfire.
That's what I initially was talking about doing. And then it changed. I'd rather
Uh,
just them hear my stuff when I
of
have to
course. There's all. I mean, pretty much every culture has their version of a legend or a lore, and I think Pennsylvania and Washington, because of how like wooded the areas are, obviously there's like the Sasquatch and like
Hmm.
Bigfoot and all that, because there are areas of the woods where you're just like, I might have been the only person who has ever walked in this area. That's how like dense it is. That's how like, you know, um, wooded the area is. There, and I don't know. I guess you only hear about the scary legends, right? You never hear about the like
What's
the jet skier who haunts the lake trying to get the sickest waves, that you might hear him at night going, you don't hear about those
yeah.
legends.
If you put a beer on the dock, it cracks. You leave it out, you come back in the morning, and it's been cracked.
There's
It's the
at
ghost of
night,
old Chaz.
Chaz. If you leave a spike ball net out at night, in the morning there will be a spike ball there. Yeah, I feel like, again, most of them are bullshit because they're just like created to scare, kids or whoever.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, oh, don't go in the lake at night, because of the monster or whatever, the ghost. And it's really just trying to prevent people from swimming at night, in
Yeah,
the
do you think
lake.
it's just like a parent or a lifeguard,
Yeah.
an off-duty lifeguard who was like, I gotta go, but you know about this lake, right?
Yeah, it's just like, what are you talking about? And it's just like, well, I'm just, trying to protect you. Yeah, I feel like if you ultimately trace the story back, the oral history of these stories, and it just ends up to be like the Coast Guard or like a lifeguard or like a concerned parent who is like, well, I just want to be safe.
Yeah. Was there a street or location in your hometown that was haunted that there were stories about?
I don't think so. I'm trying to rack my brain if there was. Well, I guess kind of like, how there are these kind of like dead man's ditch or like these turns like in a part of town where just like, oh, a lot of cars have crashed or something like that. I
Yeah.
feel like there were areas like that, but I don't remember they had like a specific name.
Mm.
Did you
There
have that?
was, yeah, there was a bunch on Long Island. Sweet Hollow Road was one,
Oh, okay.
and there were a bunch of stories, ghost stories about that. And it was just a very narrow, unlit road
Right.
that was in between, like a long road that was in between, I guess, two main roads. I don't even remember what neighborhood it was in, but there were a lot of like cool ghost stories that were, and then
And were they all associated with like the treacherousness of the road? Were they like crashes, or it was just like this kind of
mm,
scary looking area?
I think everybody in the story had died on that road. So there was
Gotcha.
one where there were like people who were hung off of a bridge, and the thing was that if you parked your car on the bridge, it would roll uphill. Like if you
Whoa,
were in neutral, it would roll uphill.
that's
And
wild.
I don't think that ever happened.
Yeah,
Um,
that
there was a
that also
TV show or something. I think I saw like a ghost hunter show where they went there or somewhere similar
right.
and tried that.
I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of those things, like, oh, put this car in neutral and it'll roll uphill. There are those things where if you actually went and did it, it would kind of be like, no, this would never work, clearly. But there, when you're young and you're impressionable, you're almost too scared to even try it because you're just like, I don't want it to fucking happen to me.
Yeah. The only thing that ever happened on that we experienced was we were walking down that, not driving, and somebody threw yogurt at my friend John. So that out of a car, they threw yogurt and it hit him, and
It's just like,
it's like, well,
heads up, nerd. You're just like, oh
yeah.
man, someone threw
And I was
yogurt.
like, that yogurt is a ghost.
Yeah, I feel like every town has probably either one or the other. They either have like a haunted or a scary area, let's say,
Or a house, like there's a
or a
house in
house,
the
yeah.
neighborhood. Yeah.
um, or like makeout point. Like I feel like every town had like a makeout point.
Hmm.
This is the one area where teens or young adults would go in their cars or wherever, and they'd just like make out.
I don't know that we had that. Oh, we had a parking garage
A
that
parking
people would go
garage
to.
at a
Yeah,
Pep Boys. What is this? At a parking
yeah.
garage.
Yeah, you get a tune up, and then while you wait, no, it was like there was a part of town that was industrials.
Right.
There was like a bunch of factories and stuff, and there was a huge parking garage that everybody would go to, and there were different garages, different parking lots there, so people would be in different spots, making
Right.
out in cars. But it
So you
was
get like
also
separate.
like a party garage.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like most of those places are also just the party spots, like on the
Mhm.
weekend, but like during the week, maybe it's less
Functioning, yeah,
party-ish.
with
Yeah.
people from the factory. Yeah, less party-ish. Factory workers.
Have you ever been to like a warehouse party? I know like in Brooklyn, it's a big thing. They'll like take over a warehouse or something for like a weekend and do like a
Mm,
party or rave,
no, I
trip on
don't think
Molly.
so. I've been to like awful art installations that have been in like warehouses or like weird buildings that weren't, and they all, let me tell you, all the art is garbage. That they're like,
So why were you going there? Were you just going for the drinks and the hangs with
well,
people,
free
or
drinks, and then I thought it'd be cool. It's like, oh, a secret
right?
Brooklyn or Manhattan art show, and you go, and it's like you expect it to be a certain like pretentious hipster sort of crowd, and then it is exactly that. Only the art is bad.
Also the
Because
art
like
is
you see
bad.
it in movies and TV and stuff where it's like, oh, you see this beautiful work of art. All
Right.
the people are snooty and weird, but and just the art is like, I don't know, like stereotypical bad art.
Right.
Like I don't remember anything exactly, but it's like, oh, here's a dented trash can that somebody glued to the wall.
Oh, they love to glue those things to the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like part of it too is like age range. Like if you go to an art show, maybe in your 20s, made by people in their 20s, it's probably going to be something like that where it's like a little bit of a mess. Maybe there
Mhm.
are some like good art in there, but overall, it's just like an excuse to like hang out, listen to music, and drink or whatever. Um, and I feel like I didn't go to a lot when I was younger. I feel like I've been invited to more of those things as I've gotten older. And that is also a sad part of it too, is where you're older and that like kind of big party kind of atmosphere is not really what people are there for. They're there for the art. So it's just kind of like
Mhm.
standing around with a drink, kind of talking and mumbling to each other about the things that are on the wall while everybody wishes it was more fun. But it's just kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're just here. This is an adult thing to do, you know. I'm
Yeah.
here with my Corona and lime, and just walking around
My Corona.
my Corona.
I
But I
think,
feel
yeah,
like, yeah,
I would have been psyched if I was like a teenager
oh yeah,
coming into the city for something like that.
yeah. Especially when I guess when the city was a little bit less regulated,
Dangerous and
dangerous. Because I remember when I first moved here, I would hear stories like people who were older than me or who grew up here would be like, "Oh yeah, this bar wouldn't card, they wouldn't ID or
Mhm.
anything like that." And as I like had moved to New York, even though that was like 10 years ago, there were maybe like one or two places that were kind of like, all right, if you were underage, you could get into here, or there were like really cool parties here that would kind of happen without really anybody knowing. And I feel like the longer I stayed in New York, the less and less those things were possible, especially with
Yeah,
like
there
social media. And it'd be like, oh, this bar doesn't card. Everybody just go here. And then it's like, oh, we'll
right.
shut this shit down.
Yeah, there were definitely a bunch of bars in my town and like neighboring towns that were raided because of that.
Right.
But in the city, like when I started performing, there were places that I wouldn't be allowed in, so I wouldn't be able to perform there because I wasn't
Right.
21. They wouldn't let me in.
That happened at do you remember Invite Them Up? Or did you ever go to Invite Them Up?
No.
So that was Leo Allen and Eugene Merman's show, right? I
Was
believe.
that at Rafifi or something?
Yes. And I wonder if they had moved it to somewhere else after, but I basically I had contacted somebody through like a message board who was like a performer there, and I was like, I really want to go to the show. I had the album, like the 3-disc Invite Them Up CD that they released like a couple of years prior. And when I moved to New York and they were still doing the show, I was just like, oh, I want to check it out. But I'm 19 and, you know, it's held in a bar. Obviously can't do it. And I remember the performer was just like, oh, if you just come, like if the show's at 7 or something, if you just come at like 5 before the bouncer gets in,
Yeah,
you can
when
just
the
like
children when the children are eating chicken fingers.
exactly. If you just come in when it's like a Chuck E. Cheese before they convert it to Rafifi's bar. But he was just like, yeah, just come in before the bouncer comes in and just hang out until the show starts, and then you could see the show. And so that's what I did. I was like, I don't know, I think I brought like my book and like my, you know, whatever, my iPod or something, and just like I think the bartender was like, do you want anything? I was like, I'll have a seltzer water or something. Because I didn't, as somebody had said it, like basically if you're going to do, like don't do 2 illegal things at once, like try to limit it to 1 illegal thing if you're going to do it. And I didn't want to,
Right.
I didn't want to like be at the bar underage and then also be drinking alcohol underage when all I wanted to do was see the show. Um, and then, yeah, later, like I waited like an hour or two and then people started coming in and then the show started and I was able to just like sneak into the back where the show was happening. But I feel like that would kind of be impossible now because
Yeah.
bartenders would at least ID you. Maybe they would probably like see you come in because I just literally came in and sat at a table. I didn't even like go to the bar or anything. They probably would have been like, "Hey, can we see your ID?" And I would have been like, I'm just here to see the show. Please don't kick me out." But I
Yeah,
feel like,
that's a shame. I think with like a regular like black box theater or something, a regular venue,
right.
they might let it slide.
Yes. I
Like
think,
even if they serve alcohol there, they might let you in because
right.
it's like, oh, I am like here for the show.
Yeah, for sure. But I think because it was basically a bar with like a little bit of a venue in the back that, you know, they had
Yeah.
ultimately used to do the shows in, um, I was kind of stepping out of my way here just to get into the show. But
Hmm.
that's how a lot of those like shows exist now too, because it's like a bar and they're like, oh, you know, it'd be fun in this little corner where
Ugh,
no
yeah.
one hangs out. Why don't we just do a show here? Let's
It's
bring a
so different
band
though.
or like you know, do some stand up or whatever. It's just like,
Oh my God. Have you ever been to a restaurant right before the band starts playing? Like you're having a good
where they're
time.
setting up.
Yeah, you're having a good time, and then you see a musician coming in, or worse, you
Oh my
see an
god, yes.
open mic starting up, and then you're like, oh,
You're like, how
right
do I
next to
eat
this.
this chicken parm as fast as possible to fucking
Yeah,
miss all this? No,
right.
I I have seen that exact thing where, you know, you're having a nice dinner or whatever. Maybe you get there a little early or you're just having drinks. And then,
Hmm.
yeah, you just see somebody with a huge cello and you're just like, what the fuck are they doing with that? And then it's
Hmm.
another dude with a trombone and you're just like, what is it? And then you just hear the clanking of like, you know, tuning the drum or like plucking the guitar and you're just like, what is happening? And then, yeah, you
Yeah,
just get that sense in the back of your neck that's like, oh, I'm about to be assaulted by this music when
I
I'm,
have a
you know,
very
trying to have my nice dinner.
distinct memory, a very distinct memory of being a kid. I don't like maybe like 8 or something, and going to a Starbucks with my father sitting in a Starbucks,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, and this is like the 90s when that sort of thing was big, like
Yeah, like a little
coffee
coffee shop.
houses
Yeah.
and yeah, yeah. And so this woman comes in with a guitar, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then this guy, like, with this guy who was just like, I don't want to be ageist, but he was too old.
Yeah, he was too old.
Just an old guy with a harmonica,
Oh
and
boy.
the woman started singing, and it wasn't good. She was like a Lisa Loeb
Right.
wannabe type thing.
Well, most of the people who would go into those places to perform are a Lisa Loeb type. Like you're never
Yeah.
seen as like, whoa, is
Well, to
that
also
a
be
Danzig
okay.
type?
Yeah, to be okay with like, oh, Dave Grohl's here. Yeah.
Yeah.
To be like okay
Got a
with having
Stratocaster is
people
like
talk and stuff and like look at you.
right.
They're not expecting that.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the whole like performing in a place where people are expecting you to perform or are there to, for you to, there to see you perform
But it's
versus
also
like
not an appropriate venue. Like there
right,
are just places where, especially with comedy, where it's like, it's not going to work here. Like no matter, you can
right.
be the best comedian, it's not going to work here. This is not the room for that.
Yeah, that was always a thing. I remember hearing stand-ups talk about how they would do like a college gig and their
Yes.
college gig was like, oh, the kids are eating lunch, go to the cafeteria and do some material at 12 or 1 in the afternoon, and just being like, who would ever want that? You're
Mhm.
eating your like grilled cheese, and then Patrice O'Neill comes up and is just like trying to do stand up in front of you. Like,
Yeah,
what is
I mean,
happening?
I would like that, but for the majority of people who, yeah, are just trying to like
Yeah.
enjoy their lunch and not have an anxiety attack from being away from home,
Yeah,
and doing,
who are having their second bowl of cereal as their meal for the day, and they're just trying to figure out how they're going to survive the next semester with 18 credits, and then
yeah.
Bill Engvall is there, doing stand up, being like,
Here's your sign.
here's your sign. Yeah, I feel like it would be nerve wracking for the performer for sure, but like for the students, it's just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
What would you say is the worst place you'd performed in? Like venue, atmosphere, audience, whatever.
Mm, well, Triple Crown uh, became like okay. Like there were definitely some really good shows there, but it was very much like a secondary thing. Like here, oh yeah, there's a stage, but they actually built a stage there.
Right. So
Um,
for people who don't know, Triple Crown is like a bar on the ground level, and there's a basement where they have like, I guess, another bar, right?
no, there's no bar down there. There is a bar, but it's not. It
It's
wasn't
not
functional.
functioning. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think they ended up putting shows there because it was like, I don't know if it was like a party or event space that they're like,
Behind the
oh, we
bar,
can just rent that.
they had just the sound system.
Right.
So like the mixer and stuff like. So they did have stuff like they put that stuff in for the performances, but
Yeah.
a lot of time it, and then like anywhere it depends if there's no audience, if there's like two
Yeah.
people in the audience, you're gonna have a terrible show there. But
Terrible.
if it's like a different venue, like UCB, and there's only Chelsea, UCB Chelsea, and there's only like 5 people in the audience, you're still gonna probably have, you can have an okay show there
Yeah.
because of the environment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I feel like the audience
Parkside
is always a
Lounge,
big thing.
yeah, Parkside Lounge wasn't great. Um, anywhere where the music in the bar is louder than
The show
yeah.
where you can actually hear people like having a conversation not
Uh-huh.
far away from you, and they're like enjoying their time having a drink or dinner, and you're just like performing. Yeah, that's not good.
Well, that's the thing that I was told, like when I did stand up, probably told this by a bad stand up, but he was like, he was like, if the audience is silent, that's not a bad thing. They're listening. If the audience is talking, then that's when you've lost them. And I was
Yeah,
like,
I
well,
guess.
either way, I'd rather have them laughing.
Right.
But
I feel
okay,
like, yeah,
makes
he's
sense, I
missing the other
guess.
aspect of that where it's like, and
Yeah.
also if they're laughing, they're enjoying
Yeah, I'm not trying to project provoke thoughts here. I'm
it.
not doing groundbreaking material.
No, it's true. If they're talking, then yeah, it either means you've lost them, or they're they're not there for the show. They're there to like do something else.
Right.
That makes sense. Yeah. I the worst place that I ever performed and was at this bar in on 23rd Street called Limerick Bar, which I don't think exists anymore. But they
Was
had like
that
an
on
it's
23rd and 7th?
yeah, it's like right on the corner on the west side.
I've gone to the bathroom there.
Well, interesting about that is the bathroom is upstairs, right? Well, one of the
I think
bathrooms
so.
is upstairs.
Do they
So
have 2 floors, maybe?
they do have 2 floors, and the shows were kind of on the second floor. But the thing about that place was the stage was basically the platform
Oh,
where the stairs to the second floor bathrooms would be. But that's fine if because there's bathrooms on the first floor. But I remember performing there where they're like, yeah, the bathrooms on the ground floor are not working, so people are going to use the second floor bathroom. So you would be standing looking out into the audience of, you know, maybe like 3 other comics who are there to also do stand up and no audience. And behind you are like the men and women's bathroom, like, you know, up a couple of stairs and then the bathrooms. So people at the bar downstairs would want to use the bathroom. So they'd walk through the audience towards you, walk past you and the microphone to use the bathroom, and then leave and then do the exact same thing going back out while you're in the middle of like performing. And yeah, that was not there was a lot of horror stories there for sure. But I saw
yeah.
some like great stand-ups there when I like who were kind of starting out, who are like, you know, more well known now. But
I guess it
um
prepares you for uh, uh, any situation where it's like, well, at least that wasn't as bad as the time,
right.
you know, that guy took a shit and we can all smell it from the stage.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, those are there. It's something that if I was still doing stand up, I'd be like, oh yeah, that was terrible. But now they're just like terrible memories that I have, where it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I guess it helped me kind of give me the bottom of how bad this could be, but I didn't necessarily get the like amazing high where I could be like, well, it was worth it because of that show, you know?
Right. That's a funny thing with improv is like I've been doing it for a long time, and at a certain point, I was like, well, because there are those nightmare shows, mostly where there's nobody in the audience, and it's like
Yeah,
just very difficult, or you're performing with people who are very difficult to get on the same page with. But it's like I was at a point where I was like, well, I've already had the worst show that I'm ever gonna have. Like I knew
right.
that. I was like, that is in the past. There's no way that I can now with like this experience and everything like that. There's no way I can have a show like that.
That's
And
true.
then and then a show like that happens where it's like, oh my god, that was like the worst thing.
Yeah,
But it
it's
could
like a
still happen
gut punch
whenever.
because
Happens much less, and it's only been that next. But it's like shitting your pants. Where like right now I think, well, I'm never gonna shit my pants again because I'm an adult. That's all in the past. And then I know one day, I'm not expecting to be like, I shit my pants again.
I mean, I don't know if like I think the last time I did was I was maybe in middle school, maybe elementary school.
Hmm.
I think if you're expecting that it's going to happen at some point as an adult, you know, barring you being like in your like very elderly age where you don't always have control over that stuff, like
Right.
you know, the range of like from you being born to maybe like let's say 8 years old or 10 years old, from like 80 until you're dead, like I feel like those don't count.
Hmm.
Those are like gimme shits. Like it's bound to happen, it's fine, and you know it's part of being a human. But from 10 years old, from 11 to 79, you should not be shitting your pants. And if you are even semi regularly, you gotta fix some things.
Well, yes.
No,
If
it's just yeah. Because what are the
no,
situations where you're just
there
like, hey, you
are
never know, man.
well, it happened to me
Yeah, I know, but why?
because it was something that I ate maybe that wasn't great, and then it just kicks in and you don't have time.
So it's like
It
food
doesn't happen
poisoning.
anymore. Well, it was greasy food, and I've adjusted my diet to not eat
Right.
like food that's really shitty. But and I used to live on Long Island, so and we probably talked about this, that like the commute. So now that I live in the
Yeah,
city,
that's
the
true.
commute is much shorter, so you have
Right.
time to go to the bathroom and then leave. Whereas Long Island would be leaving, 40 minutes to an hour before I had to be somewhere, and then that
Yeah.
whole car ride is like, well, I might have to stop somewhere during this car
Right.
ride. 'Cause it's so long.
That's
So
that's
maybe
true.
one of those things. I used to have a lot of close calls where I got to know a lot of public restrooms around the city, and the ones that were good, which, that the lyric, whatever it was called, that bar was one of the places where I was like, oh,
Oh,
they
really?
have I have found that bars in the daytime were a very good spot to go
Yeah.
because
Oh, for
so
sure.
clean. Everything was clean. Yeah.
Yeah, no one's there.
No one's
Yeah,
there.
that is something I think I've just adopted as an adult to just kind of plan and just kind of be like,
Yeah.
like, you
But
know how like,
sometimes you can't.
well, I know, but like you do the best you can, and you live a George Costanza lifestyle where you're never more than like a mile away from a bathroom or an
Hmm.
opportunity. But you know how
Well, it
like
has
they
to be a
have,
nice bathroom though. Like
well,
I don't
again,
know.
if it's an emergency, you have no choice. You got to deal with the hand you're dealt, kind of, you know.
Well, this is special. So the last time that it happened to me, it was a situation where I was near a bathroom but couldn't use that like decided not to, because so I
You
was
made a
at
judgment
a
call.
yes, I was at a birthday party at a bar, and it hit me quickly. I was like, well, I gotta go to the bathroom right now.
Oh my god, you're gonna bathroom.
Yeah, that's how I was like mumbling on my back. I gotta go
Yeah.
to the bathroom. And so there was two bathrooms, but like very small bar and a line going up to the bathroom. So it's like I have one shot.
Right.
If I go and knock on that door and it's locked, then I'm shitting my pants in front of this whole party. And then if I get in there and I'm in there for a while, when I come out, it's like even though nobody should care, that shouldn't
Yeah, no one
be a
that's the
stigma. We
least of
all
my worry at that point. If you're in
That's
an
one of my main
emergency,
yeah.
yeah. If you're in an emergency situation, like my shame of like about any of that is gone,
Mhm.
because it's like you said it. Am I either doing this in front of everybody in my
Mhm.
pants, or am I doing it behind this closed door, and we'll deal with the consequences after?
That's the amazing thing, is you think about it so quickly. You're
Yes.
just like, well, it's this thing and this thing, and these are my options. And so I fled.
You
There's yeah, there was a McDonald's across the street that I could have gone to, but it was very brightly lit, and I think this was like midnight or something like that. So who knows if they, how sometimes fast food restaurants are like, oh, our bathroom's closed,
Right. Oh yeah, yeah.
or they're very weird about, just like a Rite Aid or something like that. For some reason, they're very weird about letting people use their bathroom.
Right.
Um,
Well, I mean, yeah, I feel like
so I shit my
emergency.
pants in my car. I got to the car and started the engine, and then shit my pants
Wow.
as soon as I pulled away.
And also that the moment after, or let's say the moment when you're just, maybe you've kind of like, you've changed and you're just kind of like dealing with it, those moments, there's some like true like reflection that happens in those moments where you're just
Mhm.
like, what am I doing with my life that led me to this point right here,
Well,
and
I
how
was
do I
like, well, I'm never
change that?
eating pizza from Carmine's again.
That's a nice Yelp review.
Yeah. They made me shit my pants
They mean that?
they almost was in front of all my friends.
Sure, I
It would
had
have
two opportunities to go to the bathroom, but I felt weird about it, so I just went into my car and shit.
I didn't. It wasn't opportunities. It was potential options.
Right. No, of course. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, in those situations, you really are tapping into a fight or flight, and you kind of determine kind of where your line is for what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And like
Yeah.
you seem to be like, you know what, whatever personal shame that I could live with might be more than dealing with these other external options.
Right.
And you know what,
I
you're
don't
better
know.
for it.
I think everybody has that shame though. The
Oh
bathroom
yeah.
shame.
I mean, like I said, from the ages of 11 to 79, that should not be acceptable
To have that
to have that happen.
shame. Oh,
And
to have that happen.
yeah, the
All
shame
right.
is natural.
Well, I don't wish harm on you, but
You wish I shit
you're
my pants.
you're gonna shit your pants. At
Well,
it must have. Maybe you are like just great, but that's my point. Is that like I think that's all in my past now. I think
right,
I've made
exactly.
those mistakes. My diet's been adjusted. I
Yeah.
know sort of when, but here's I mean, we could talk about it later, but but the other thing is like eating is always a problem for me because I'm gonna have to
Yes.
go. So like eating on a date or something, it's like, well, I gotta be careful about what I get because if I
Yeah,
have to go to
you
the
have some.
bathroom, it's like, yeah. What were
Yeah,
you gonna say?
I was gonna say you have some food hangups.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, to say the least.
to say the least. But yeah. Well, let's go, and you take it day by day, month by month. But let's
Mm-hmm.
say 2020. No more of that. We're just gonna not do that.
Oh, I don't think so because I'll be right by a toilet all the time. I'll be here all the time.
You're quarantined.
Yeah,
That's true.
I'm gonna quarantine after this is over.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to my life of also staying in my house and not going and interacting with people that
Remember when
much.
people made that when it like first started? They were like, "Well, I've been
Yeah.
quarantining for this."
It's like, we get it. You're a loser.
Yeah,
Thanks for telling us you're prepared for this moment.
this is gonna be a breeze for me. And those are
Yeah.
the people going out and eating at restaurants getting COVID.
They're just like,
I
this
couldn't do it
quesadilla is
anymore.
really good. This Chipotle is really good outside. That
Ew. Yeah.
I have not done that yet. Like eating at a restaurant outside. I don't know if
No,
I
I won't
will.
either. Yeah.
I mean, there have been times where I've gone by a restaurant where there's like it's open, but no one is sitting outside. So like I would probably be the only person eating there. But I think I just have a thing about like eating outside if it's not like at the park or on like somebody's backyard in their patio or something like that. Just like where somebody could just come and stick their finger in your soup or whatever as they're walking by or
It's always
something.
my fear. Yeah.
It's always my fear. Where it's
Somebody's
just like,
gonna
oh
stick their fingers in this. If there aren't friends around or people to protect,
yeah. Well, they
who's
have
gonna?
the thin rope or whatever that protects me from the sidewalk, people, and that never
Yeah.
stops them. You got to be careful. All right, should we get started?
Let's get started.